Travis, you got me?
Yeah. We're rolling right now. If you can talk a little louder, that's always good. So I'm just kind
Is
of.
that not loud enough? If not, I have to switch out my headphones.
Oh no, sir. No, you. If you do that the whole time, we're gonna be in as the country folks say, high cotton.
High on the hog, I got you.
High cotton or tall cotton or whatever. Anyway, how you been, man?
Good. Yeah, everything's good over here.
Good. That's what's up. So I'm gonna keep us inside of 40 minutes. It's a must, even if we have to do it over. So I know how you are, and I know how I am. We got some mouths on us, and boy, we can go when we start going. So I'm gonna try to be mindful of mine, and I ain't gonna tell you how to run your life. You do what you do. But 40 minutes from about 5 more minutes is when I'm gonna be trying to push the brakes down.
That shouldn't be too hard.
Cool. So, that interview we did last was interesting. I got one comment from someone that I think, how do I say it? Another person that I hold in high esteem. And I sent that to you. I'm sure you read it. You just heard what she said about staying in therapy and whatnot to make sure this, that, or the other doesn't happen. You understand that already, though.
Yeah, I mean, my therapy goes till 2027. That's what we signed up for. So that's why I didn't reply. It was kind of a moot point. I don't take leaving situations lightly, nor do I take recovery lightly. You know what I mean? You can leave a situation, but if you don't repair yourself properly, for the future, you're carrying a lot of that stuff with you. Hence why, the people that I'm even seeing right now or entertaining seeing, I let them know what kind of journey I'm on. I'm keeping our visitations and stuff rather limited because I need the space to, not bring that on them. So rather than responding to that comment, I just kind of chuckled and I was like, yeah, tell me something I don't know. I'm already doing that. Part of even putting in my new home gym was a part of that. My therapist was like, what do you really like to do, outside of committing yourself to someone else? I thought I really like taking care of my body, and I like adventure. I like hiking. I like the mountains. I like travel. And he's like, let's just double down on that right now. So that's all part of the plan.
Awesome. Love it. Well, that's also shows maturity. The fact that you're actually jumping out the box going, hey, I'm in therapy. I just had a bad relationship. That can be, we can make fun of that, but it's
two of which I've already brought through your interview. And they were like, damn, I really get it now. So I'm doing the work, so yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, what did you get from listening to yourself? I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, but I want to go in because I do have a few more questions. What did you get from hearing yourself talk to me? And I hope I wasn't too aggressive or even too soft on you, but what did you get?
Yeah, I've definitely listened to it 3 or 4 more times, usually in the morning when my head is more clear, before I start my days. What I got from that is just, I got a lot of clairvoyancy. I was proud of myself. I was proud of the way that I talked. I wasn't necessarily proud of my curse words and stuff, but I didn't feel like I was
Don't listen. Don't hold back. Don't listen. Be you. And sometimes I will edit. Sometimes I won't. But this is not like I don't want to say it's not a family program, but don't let that cause you to not be you. So go.
Well, my grandmother raised me not to be that nasty of a mouth, but I certainly wasn't proud with the words I chose, but I was very proud of my conviction because nothing I said was untrue.
And I am. I'm going to say, I don't want to say I'm proud, but I had no problem with you expressing yourself genuinely. So by all means, you did nothing bad or wrong, and your grandmother would be proud of you.
Yeah, I think in that moment she would be because if you want to hear her curse words and how she feels about her, I've never heard my grandmother curse about someone like that. She met her, she stayed at my grandmother's house, and they fell out one time. So my grandmother has some choice words as well. So I'm sure she would be feeling some type of way about how I spoke about it. But neither here nor there. The one sentiment that, and I did listen to it a couple of times because I just wanted to make sure that the sentiment was fair and it wasn't untrue. And I stayed really close to what happened. There was no embellishment. It really is what occurred. I thank God. I thank myself for being able to even have the home security surveillance system to document all of it. Not just for me because I lived it, but in the event that I ever have to leverage it or to you, like show you some photos of like, this is what it was. I feel proud in that because I'm not lying, man. I'm telling my truth. And like I said, people have seen Moby Dick, people have seen the Loch Ness Monster, people have seen extraterrestrial beings, some of which are true and some aren't. But there are people out there that have seen some stuff, encountered some stuff that like it's beyond belief. And I've never had a problem with dating. I've never had a problem with having women in my life. And so this was definitely outside of what I've been accustomed to of dealing with another partner. And that doesn't have to even be about women. I was thinking about how it feels like an attack on a woman, but really it's just about human behavior. I had a business partner about 10 years ago who was eerily similar to her. And so I just want to make that clear that it's not necessarily, I feel like what I encountered is not predicated or designed exclusively to a woman's nature and behavior. I think it's just an archetype of a person. And it's just beyond return. Something that I hope most don't have to encounter, but when you encounter it, you have to almost reprogram yourself because you're so used to dealing with a fair majority of people that are somewhat diplomatic and far more understanding or empathetic. But when you come across something like that, it really is an out-of-body experience.
Definitely. I want to jump right into a particular question. Do you think it would matter? Do you think it would hurt or harm you if she actually got to hear that particular interview?
Yeah, it would devastate her, and it would probably turn her on to more destruction. I think that knowing that her story is out there would actually create more violence in my world. Unfortunately, I would like to think, I would love to hear my story. But I also know my story from her is only protecting her narrative of who she needs to be and her family and everyone that surrounds her. So I don't think that whatever story is being told about me is actually a fair story. So I don't.
Just for the record,
Yeah, go ahead.
what is it that you think? What is her perception of you, or what happened? If you just had to guess, what would you think? What have you even heard, or what do you think she's saying?
I haven't heard nothing because I think she's smart enough not to actually have people close to me knowing her story. I mean, her first cousin works for my company, and her first cousin is like treating me like I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they're best friends. So either she knows her story and doesn't believe it, or doesn't want to risk her check, or is playing both sides, or she just doesn't believe it in complete totality. I believe the story that she's telling is victim. And I do believe it's victim, but I believe it's victim wrapped in ignorance. She's never been with someone who has been from means, who has been able to provide for her. I don't think she knows what it means to be provided for. I don't know if she understands what it means to be kept. There's rules to anything in life. If you're asking for a man to take care of you for 3 years, put you in a high honors master's degree program, make all your superficial bodily enhancements to your own insecurities and needs, to think that that's just a hall pass, and to think that there's not something you have to show up and do, whether it's just being understanding and empathetic. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that hurt me and really showed me that she was not thinking in any way about me was, as we were preparing to go to the United States, after I spent $10,000 on the visa, 2 trips to Bogota to the embassy to make sure we cleared the interviews. We were preparing for about a $65,000 trip, from hotels to accommodations and stays. I don't own a house in the States anymore. I only own a house here in Colombia. So for the 3 months that we're in the States, we're renting everywhere we go. And I tried to explain that to her, the months leading up to our trip. But she felt it was necessary to squeeze another $6,000 surgery on her breast because she wanted to go to the United States with brand new breasts, and that resulted in 2 bad decisions. One, it impacted the money that I was saving up for our trip so we could be comfortable. And 2, she spent most of the trip wrapped up like King Tut, like a mummy, because her breasts were recovering. So our sex life suffered. Everything really suffered. She couldn't get in the hot tub at the nice hotels we were at. She couldn't enjoy herself at the beaches we were at. I mean, it just, the desire to get these things done, it was almost like she knew that after the trip there would be an exodus. So she wanted to get her last little bill in. So that's when it really hurt me, because when someone is kind of floating you and carrying you along in life, such as my father, I was a single parent household by the age of 8. I knew that everything he was doing, the summer camps, the recreational football, wrestling, baseball, basketball programs he had us in, I knew that every bit of money that he had for me and my brother was going to our recreational things. And we really had a deep desire to make our dad proud. We weren't just doing those things just to do it. We weren't trying to take our dad's money just because we wanted to go hang out with our friends. Like, we were trying to be the best in any extracurricular program that he put us in, because we knew the sacrifice he was making. So when she couldn't see that the sacrifice of basically being a dependent for 3 months straight, and she was already a dependent for 2.5 years, so being a dependent 3 months straight in a foreign country, meaning she couldn't even work if she wanted to, and not seeing that the added benefit would probably be waiting until we got through that monumentous moment of going to a foreign country, my country, to learn my life, but feeling that it was more important to squeeze in one last operation, knowing that it would jeopardize her own experience, to the effect where there was days where she was crying in one of the hotel rooms or one of the Airbnb rooms, where she realized that she f***ed up, like not being able to go to the hot tub and hang out with me at night, only being able to put her feet in because she felt it was so important to, get her surgery before then. Having to stop by Walgreens on road trips and re-up on her lotions to make sure that her scars healed. I mean, those are things I wasn't looking forward to signing up for on the trip. So it was pretty damaging that she thought it was more important to do that. It also just kind of showed that there was a more important goal in mind, which was getting what she could while she could get it.
Well, you see that now.
I saw that then too. I actually brought it to her attention a couple of weeks before we left. I was like, I just want you to know, like, I'm feeling kind of painful about the decision that you made me take, because I'm the financer, right?
The enabler.
The enabler, yeah. And the sad part is that she did it while I was away on a business trip. I had given her some money. I gave her some money to fix her nose. She has a deviated septum in her nose, and she finally got approved with her local health insurance to get her nose fixed. Well, the story that was told to me is when she was scheduling the appointment, they told her that they couldn't get her in that amount of time. So instead of holding the money and or returning it back to me so we could use that for our trip, in the United States, she just flipped it and went ahead and scheduled overnight her breast augmentation. So I showed up to a surgery that I wasn't a part of. I didn't improve, and the money that I lent to it wasn't ordained for that activity. So it was a lot of deceit as well.
Quick question.
Sure.
Do you think you will ever be over this?
No, of course no. I will never be over the fact that a person can take another person's money with the intentions of using it some way and using it another way and expecting them to be okay with it. Will I be over our relationship? Absolutely. I feel like I'm well well past that. I don't think I'll ever be over the fact that the person can actually like, hey, baby, here's the money for a down payment on our mortgage. Oh, but instead you want to go buy some new roller skates. And then you come home to your first down payment on your mortgage not being paid. I mean, that's kind of the sentiment that I feel. I don't think anyone can ever get over that. I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that a person can do that.
So here's another question.
Go ahead.
I'll ask the same question, but in a different way.
Sure.
Do you think it'll ever not impact you so much?
Yeah, because my dad taught me early money is money. I watched him deal with money in ways that was very enlightening as the oldest in my family. I watched him put his ex-wife, my mother, through countless therapies for my mom's condition, even after being divorced. Even her not being able to find a job and her not being able to find another partner, man or woman or family, to supplement her financial needs. He did that 3 to 4 years after the divorce. So I went into about 11 or 12 years old. My dad was still financially supporting her. And my dad always said, money is money. You'll always get more or get it back if you're a good person and you work hard. Don't let that bother you. But as long as you're doing the right thing, it'll all resolve itself. So I don't think I'll ever be looking at the ledger and reflecting back on the money that was lost. It's kind of funny how it works because I've already added 3 new clients to my business portfolio, and I got 2 more on the way. I got to go travel on business soon. So in theory, by 2026, I might have replaced all that money that went down the toilet. So no, I don't think I'm going to dwell too hard on the transactions.
Okay, maybe not the money part. When I say get over it or not have it impact you so much, based on my listening, it sounds like, of course, it's still fresh and new. Sounds like you're heavily impacted by it. Do you see yourself, not the money, do you see yourself emotionally being over it or not so impacted?
When you say over it, do you mean the ability to move on in other relationships or other experiences with other people and not have it affect relationships? Or do you mean just letting go of the pure experience that I went into?
Letting go where you don't even talk about it. If someone talks about it, you change the subject. It's like right now, there are some things that have happened in your life that were really bad at the time. But now that you are over it, or now that it's not impacting you so much, you don't talk about it, you don't give the details. Like right now, as I hear you tell the story, you go into details. It's obvious that's
why we're on this call, right, Travis? Is to go into the details. If you were to ask my broader constituents, my family, even my mother and my grandmother, they're still trying to get details out of me. So I'm doing this phone call because I feel like it's a safe space to do that. You and my therapist are the only people who know the details. Of course, I've shared the link of the interview with a couple of friends, and now they know a little more. But am I actively going out of my way to go into those details with most of my community and my village and my friends? No, I would say no. I don't think it's necessary. Not because I'm trying to protect myself and I'm trying to not seem weak or feel like I was naive to the possibilities of takers versus givers versus takers. I would say no, but I would say that honestly, if I was in a space and I'm 70-something years old and my kids or my kid or whoever, one of my daughters or one of my sons, wanted to talk about my life experience or relationships, I would be remiss to say that I wouldn't tell them those dirty details. I probably would.
Did you see this coming at all 5 years ago? Yes or no?
Well, I didn't know her 5 years.
Not her, this experience. Did you see the fact that you could have had this type of experience 5 years ago? Let's say 5 minutes before you laid eyes on her. Could you have even imagined this happening to this degree? Yes or no?
Travis, I saw it 22 years ago.
How?
I saw it 25 years ago. I saw it when the way that my mother left my father. I saw it in the way that I was the oldest out of my siblings to actually see what was really happening and see that my mom was being selfish. And that my mom had fallen out of love with my dad, which happens in relationships. That's true. My mom was part of one of those Amway cohorts. I don't know if you remember Amway. But
I do.
When Amway was blowing up, my dad's steady Eddie. Just worked an engineering job, made good money, kind of worked his way up, stayed with the same company for 40 years. My mom was a creative musician, just kind of trying to find her way through life, and nothing was really sticking. Amway cohort kind of kicked off in our neighborhood. She joined that little cohort and started, and my dad paid for her entry fee, because my dad's, looking for something for her to do, looking for her not just to be a stay-at-home mom. Maybe this is her way out, be a stay-at-home mom, have a small business, running it from home, while still being available to tend to, us coming home from school while he's doing his 9 to 5 as an engineer, which really wasn't a 9 to 5, it was more like a 7 to.
Okay, I'm trying to get. I know you're explaining it, and that's fine. But when I asked you before you met her, when I first asked you, you said you didn't know her, and I get that. This experience, the traumatic experience, you said you saw it 22 years ago. I want to know how you saw this, and if you saw it, how did you not turn away from it? So you're saying you see the building burning, but then you went in anyway. I want you to explain that to me.
You're talking about specifically to her, so 2 points.
No. Hold on. Stop for a second. I'm not talking about her at all. I specifically said this experience. Everything that you went through, the psychological, emotional, the financial, this was, over 3 years ago when you first met her, and now it's done. I asked you if you could see it, and you said you didn't know her. So my question is, could you imagine or see this experience before you met her? And you said yes. And I'm not sure I understand how you saw it, because I thought your answer would be no. But if you say you did see it, but then it happened anyway, I'm trying to understand that.
Okay, Travis. So here's the deal. I understand the capabilities of people because I experienced it at a young age. I had to grow up faster than I probably wanted to see the volatility. The reality that your mother can fall in love with a guy at an Amway program and overnight pack her bags and leave, and you being the first one to wake up and see it happening while your siblings and your father are still asleep. And I can see how easy it was for her to go explore new life, only for that to burn down, and only didn't come back and need my dad's help to put her life back together. I've seen that at an early age. So I've seen the grass is greener on the other side effect for people. I've seen how people can actually be a victim to that. Now, fast forward, and I think this is one of the hardest things to talk about, and I don't know if it resonates with people because most people don't live the life that I live. But we're talking about a different culture, okay? I know the American culture. I know how men operate. I know our machismo culture. I know the feminine culture in our culture. I know how men and women get along. I know that it's very matriarchal and patriarchal, depending on what side of the coast you live on. East Coast versus West, wealth, how it's carried, why people get married, how they stay married, all that shit. I understand that. But we're talking about, I could say yes and no. And I think it is a yes and no answer because yes, I understood what people are capable of because I saw it at an early age. But I wasn't a complete understanding of what the grilla and the Colombian Latin American culture from a male to a woman perspective was. So I would say from that perspective, I had no idea what I was coming into. You also have to realize that a year and a half, if not closer to 2 years, her father invited me to lunch for the first time. I finally thought that we were breaking ground and we were gonna be like buddies, which we always were buddies, but like we never went out alone. So he invited me out, only to find out when we went out alone that he was prepared to present me with a proposal that since she has been living with me, that in their culture, I now owe money to the family. That doesn't happen in the United States. So for me to sit here and tell you that I knew that falling in love with a woman and moving her into my house, that they have this thing called like social, I forget the name.
So is that really a thing, or was that something he was pulling on you?
That's really a thing, because I did my research right after that. I contacted, and he's like, oh yeah, bro, yeah, that's a thing here, and so.
Did you contact anybody else?
Yeah, of course. That's just one, right? I contacted legal counsel here. I even contacted the embassy.
And why? How is that a thing? Why and how?
Am I reciting what the government policies are, or why?
That's a government policy?
In a way.
Okay, so let me play back. So if you date someone and they live with you, you're obligated.
For 2 years. They can, if they have the money to properly represent themselves in court, they can make a case to take a portion of what you guys have manifested and accumulated over the course of the time you've been living together. That is a fact.
Okay, I get that, but you're saying
I think it's called civil union, social union, something like that. Yeah.
No, I get that. I'm saying that he asked you for money while you. Yeah. But I'm saying, how is that
$750 a month moving forward? Because what you don't understand, and what I've learned, Travis, is there's this unsung question that most Western world people like us always ask.
Hold on, hold on a second. I'm trying to understand something. So you're saying it's a government thing. So he had a legal or, right.
No, it's one of those things. It's like, we can do this civil. So you know the difference between civil court, right? Civil court means it's handled out of the court of law, right? So even in our country, right, we can, if we divorce, we don't have to actually go to like.
Okay, hold on for a second. I'm trying to understand one thing in particular. You can explain it, but I'm lost, and I don't want. If you keep talking, I'll get dragged, and this is important to me. He stopped you to say, I want $750 because my daughter is with you, and that's some kind of government thing you're saying. And I
don't think you understand the motivation. So the reason why most Latin American families have more than enough kids that they can actually bear is because they treat their children like life insurance policies. So as their kids get older, especially the girls who marry off into wealthier families, that's their hope, that money returns in a portion back to the family. So now that she's away from the house, because remember, you probably don't know this, when I met her, she was working, and a portion of her income, where she was working at the furniture store, went to the family. I extracted that. I removed her out of the house. I put her in my house where she no longer had to work, but the upward mobility of her family from her specific position in the family stopped. Okay, so imagine if she's making $550, $600 a month, I think is what she was making. She was easily putting $250 back into that family every month. That went away the minute she moved to my house. So they let it go for about 6 months. They let it go for about a year. I mean, I was doing things like buying groceries, being nice, things that I would do in America, not thinking that it was going to lead up to like an actual agreement. And then eventually it got to the point where it's like, and I've done a lot of counsel on this. And so essentially what happens is, as people get older here and don't have life insurance policies to take care of themselves, or they don't have Social Security the way that we do, they depend on their children to either bring money back home monthly, or whoever they marry, bringing a portion back as well, especially with the women. It's all facts. It's what I experienced and what I researched, and it's the counsel I got. And in this culture, it's not a big deal. It's expected.
So she's living in your house. You guys are doing your thing, and you're now paying $750 a month to the family.
No, I told her. So I came home. I said, "Hey, I'm in extreme disbelief right now." I was prepared to pay for the lunch. I was prepared to have a 2 or 3 hours with the man, learn more about him, because all I know about him is he's the sole provider of the family. He's the only one that works in the family. Her mother doesn't work. The kids work for the family business. So the boys do. He does a business. So I shouldn't say he's the only one that works, but his sons have families too. You know what I mean? So he's working under their pay. They're working under his payroll. So he's got his whole system worked out. So I'm thinking, cool. This is the time to break bread with the old man, figure out what he was like a kid. What sports did he like playing growing up? Did he like soccer? What's his favorite team? Becoming more friends than just I'm dating your daughter. But it wasn't that.
So how did that end, and what did you do moving forward?
I told her, and out of respect of knowing that I came from a different culture, immediately went to her dad and said, hey, that's not cool. That's not okay. She was really embarrassed. I'll give her credit in that respect that she felt the shock that was in me when I came home. And so she handled it, and no payments ever happened regarding that conversation.
Okay, I want to change subject. Hold on. I want to totally just go brick wall on that. We're changing subject. I'm older than you. Okay? I don't know why. Maybe it's for religious reasons. But I've never lived with a woman that I wasn't married to or that I was going to marry. I've never wanted to, and even at this point in time in my life, I'm still single and I live alone. Maybe I'll have a visitor over for a while to hang out, but I've never believed in the living and moving in thing. Not so much because of that reason. That was maybe the second or third dairy reason. And even now, and I think it's for spiritual reasons. Is that a good idea or not? Or does it matter? Because if someone find a way to marry you and then they're going to do that, it's, I don't know. I just wanted to break.
I think that's a great question, Travis, because I can tell you from my experiences, I don't know the answer, because you could live apart. And as we were on, can you still hear me?
I hear you fine. Yes.
Yeah. As we were on the verge of breaking up, I proposed to her that it might be better for her to go back and get a job, get a small apartment in proximity of the house, and we can live separately and kind of work out our things and kind of create some distance between us, to see if that is what we need right now. But I can't tell you if immediately living with someone helps you understand who they really are, because living with someone is the real deal. You obviously know that. I can tell you that living with her really did kind of up my flow a little bit. She's the type that she likes her mornings to be the way her mornings are. She's the type that will spend 2 hours in the master bathroom, taking long showers and listening to whatever music she wants, applying her makeup. 2 hours was an average for her, which kind of up my flow because I want to get in and get out. So halfway through our relationship, the size of our house, I found myself, going to the bathroom in my office and living a whole separate life. Like I'd get up. And so, you learn a lot about when you're living with someone, and their tendencies and what they need to start their day, or how to end their day, or even how they eat throughout their day. She was a big component of eating together. I'm not. I'm a big component of eating when I need to eat because I run a business, so I'm working in my office. So you learn a lot of those things. And one could say living separately, say we lived separately for 3 or 4 years, and then we got married, I would still discover those same things. So it's really, I don't know the right answer for that. I think the sooner you know a person, the better. Whatever methodology you use, whether it's living together or having staycations where they come over for 3 or 4 days at a time, only to return back to their place, or whether it's fully getting into a domestic situation.
Well, let me just chime in on that real quick. Hold on.
Yeah.
I just think if you spend enough time, I have this 90-day thing, which is still not a lot of time. But I think if you take your time and get to know some of these things, you can see But I think you have the same problem I have, and I don't want to necessarily call it a problem. You know, we fall hard. You know, we want to love hard and we want to be attentive and all that. And that's what will cause us to miss red flags. But I really believe now that I'm, you know, in my golden age, I really believe you can take some time before you move in and before you make too many fast moves. You can see a lot of things that will cause you to say, nah, I don't think I want to do that. And I think that's where my experience, fear, and wisdom comes in to say, no, I don't think I'm going to move in with anybody or have anybody move in with me or move too fast. I am a edge walker. I don't move in too fast.
But
Literally.
maybe I'm you now, so let me step in there because I want to make sure whoever's listening to this is like, this didn't happen overnight, Travis.
Well, that's why. Okay, that was one of the reasons.
We were together. We were together for 3 years. She moved in officially almost 1 year and 8 months. Once my house was finished, you have to realize, I was building a house when we met. The house that you've been in. I was staying in a casita that could barely support me and 2 dogs, let alone adding another body to it, whether it's another man, a roommate, or a woman as a girlfriend. We lived like that for a year and 8 months. Once the house, we lived where she was still living with her parents for a year and 8 months of our relationship. You know, almost 2 years, where she would go to work, she'd go to her parents' house, she'd probably have dinner.
So you guys lived together before you moved into your house?
No, I just told you the exact opposite.
Oh, okay. All right.
Explaining that.
No. Okay, I misunderstood.
So, for a year and 8 months, she was going to work, leaving work, going back home because the proximity of where she grew up was closer. She would go home, shower up. Her mom would probably make her eat there because that's just how their family operated. She'd pack up a night bag, come over. We'd spend the evening together, and she would drive to work the next day. And either she'd come back the immediately following day, or she'd come back 2 or 3 days after.
So that's what I'm misunderstanding. It sounds like she did stay a lot of time with you, but didn't move in.
7-day work week, Travis. For a year and a half, we're talking 3 impressions a week. I'm just trying to, you seem like you're in a mathematical mode right now, so I'm just telling you, 3 to 4 days a week out of a 7-day work week, she was here. For the course of 3 hours of seeing each other and the rest of the time us sleeping because she has to get up and go to work tomorrow. I work from home. So we're talking about however you want to quantify those impressions. It certainly wasn't like my other relationships. I've lived with other women before. I was in a relationship where I lived with a woman for 5 years, my college sweetheart. And that was actually living together. Next door to her parents. Her parents owned 2 homes next to each other. In their second home, they leased out to traveling nurses and doctors. And when we got to our point where we wanted to try it out, they opened up the lease to us. And we did that for 4.5 years. The only reason that broke us up was that she wanted to have kids at 28 years old, and I wanted to start a business at 28 years old. So two different values. Lucky for her, within a year of us breaking up, she met the guy who was able to be in a position to do that. He was 40 years old. She was 28. And it was the perfect time for them to do that. 2 kids later, they're happily married. But at that time, it wasn't for me. It doesn't change the love I had for her, but I couldn't imagine starting a business and starting a family. So I've lived. This is not the first time I've lived, but if you want to balance living with women, I would say my previous relationship was far more a living situation because it was a 24/7, 365. And I learned from that one, and I felt like this one was rather healthy for the first almost 2 years. You know, seeing her 3 or 4 days a week in the evenings, maybe have breakfast in the morning, depending on my work schedule. And then she'd go on about her day, only to see her that night, or if not. Sometimes I wouldn't see her for 2 or 3 days at a time, depending on her family dealings. And she has her own friends too, and they wanted to go out and do their thing. So yeah, I felt like it was a healthier path.
Okay, well, we're definitely closing in on our time, and if you want to do it again, I would be glad to. We can make a series. We planned to make a series out of something else a long time ago, but you know, this is fine because this is another way for you to get it out and another way for me to get it in. It's like I'm listening to you, I'm hearing this, and although of course I'm much older than you, we're still in the same situation. I'm still single and I do desire companion, but I don't want the drama that comes with it, and I'm doing all I can to not necessarily avoid it, but not unnecessarily take it on. So with that being said,
There's one thing I'll say real quick before we go to the next chapter. I lived 2 years, Travis, carrying out the idea that I don't want to live with someone. And so for 2 years, basically weekends, primarily weekends, I would go visit them or they would go visit me. And we would live up, Thursday through Sunday, Friday through Sunday, however we wanted, however our schedules matched. We'd live it up. And what I found, and even that theory is that you're living a fantasy. Because during the time that you take off to visit someone, you're basically putting everything at bay that you have going on in your normal lives. And so I didn't even feel like that strategy worked either. And that's why I said earlier, I don't know if I can tell you what's the right strategy. I think the right strategy is...
maybe not right, but safe. I think that's a safe strategy.
Yeah,
definitely not right
safe,
or wrong.
But safe can only get you so far. I mean, the only things in life that I've ever benefited from were risk. Even this house I'm living in was a huge risk. I didn't have the money to build this house when I built this house. I had to borrow $250,000. Now, I knew that I had a couple of big contracts on the line, and I was negotiating them. But when I put the money down for this house, that wasn't safe. And now I have one of the best views, and I benefit from that. But safe will only get you so far. That's just one of my things.
Well, maybe that's why I'm still where I am, because I would much rather play it safe than sorry. And I know the difference between a risk, especially a financial risk, a direct business financial risk, and a different relationship, which is a whole nother thing. I'm just saying, and trying in the effort to close, what I've witnessed in this is that and this is how I relate to it, your desire and need for companionship and wanting to be able to love and love deep and give without, give freely, caused you to maybe go so long. And I can relate to that. And that's what I'm feeling. It's like, I don't want to say I feel sorry for you. I just feel that pain because I know you well enough to know that you did care about her. You really did love her, and you wanted
always will. And the thing, Travis, I want the whole world to hear this, whoever's listening to this. It's like, I'm not a victim in this. In fact, I'm blessed because, man, and I'm not trying to put it all out there, but let's just keep it high level. I mean, there was a potential child on the way. Didn't happen due to.
Do you regret biology. That? Would you be okay if you'd had a child with that kind of personality?
No. Whoever's looking after me made sure it didn't happen. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
It's like, there and look, that's like I remember when I was in college, man. We got out of college and we were all in 3 or 4 year relationships in college. You know what I mean? Then we graduated and it's like, what's next? And all my friends were considering the what's next thing. I mean, with this girl for 3 or 4 years, like some wanted to have kids, some didn't. And what's the next thing? Let's get a dog together. And then they get a dog together and they find out parenting an animal, which is not a child, was difficult. They all had different philosophies on how to raise them and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like you learn these things. And I don't feel like I needed to have a child with her to recognize that we weren't good for each other in the first place. So whoever was looking after me and allowed that miscarriage to happen, I take that as a blessing.
Okay.
As morbid as that may sound.
No, I get it. That doesn't sound morbid at all. I mean, I don't like using that word, and I guess, how did she take the miscarriage?
That's a great question. She didn't really want to talk about it. So I don't know how she really felt about it.
Considering what you know now about her.
It wasn't to the point where the family even.
Considering what you know about her, would you totally overrule the fact that maybe it was intentional? That's a hard question.
No. I know that about her. It's not, but I do know that she would take it as if it was a sign. I know that she probably took it like, this is a sign that we shouldn't be together.
Okay, well, this is how I want to close. And I'm going to shift the focus, not necessarily on me, but just my thoughts. Hearing your situation with where I am in my life right now, I am terrified when I hear your story and other stories that I've heard. And I'm not going to be living, too careful and safe. But I want to just get to my point. I guess my warning signs, I know what I like. I'm very attentive. I'm very affectionate. Supposedly my love language is accountability. I listen carefully. I pay attention. If someone says something to me, it doesn't have to be a potential significant other, just anybody, even in business. If someone says something to me, I remember what they said, and I try to honor that. Even if I think they're going to say it, I'll try to be quick on the spot. But the moment I see someone not paying attention to what's important to me, it causes me to come to an almost halt. And I think hearing your story and with where I am, how this has helped me is just causing me to be mindful of how people listen to me, how they respond to things that I say and what's important to me. And I think that's going to give me some leverage in terms of moving forward, because I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for a companion and, something solid. But when I see those signs, I can't get past them. I don't care how much I want to or how much I may like a person. I just can't get past it. I don't know if that landed the plane for both of us, but I'll let you have your closing thoughts and statements. And if we need to pick it up again, that's fine. But that's where I am. I just want to be mindful of what I see in advance. And there are just some deal breakers that if I don't feel someone's paying attention to what's important to me and honoring that and being attentive to it, I don't think I can go forward, no matter how much I'm in love.
I hear that, Travis. I hear it. And I think that I want to tell you two things. One, I think our society has really put men and women against each other in a way that's horrible.
That's terrible. I know what you're saying. We don't even have to go into the details. I get it.
I'll explain that in a way. But I also think that, there were 6 months of our relationship that was purely magical. And it wasn't the first 6. Actually, our first 6 was basically butting heads and trying to figure out who we each were. There was a 6-month period where it was really nice. I probably 4 to 6. But I'll tell you this, I know what changed it. And it was me directly changing it. I can't speak on behalf of what she changed, but I know I made a massive change to myself. And the change that I made was not a change for her, but it was a change in how I allowed her to be. And so when I hear, you got your set of things that work for you, it's no different than me hearing all these things about girls he's got to make 6 figures, he's got to be 6 feet, he's got to have, everybody's coming into these relationships with a set of rules nowadays. And, I'm only 5'8", Travis, and I make well beyond 6 figures. And I'm not the most attractive looking guy in the world. You know what I mean? So, given people's resumes and standards on paper, I fail. Other than the 6 figures, I'm not 6 feet, and I'm not horribly attractive. I'm a decent 6.5, 7. My personality makes up for it. Might walk me into a 7.58 with my personality. But when you're going against women who have these type of, he's got to make me laugh, he's got to have this much money.
Hold on, let me stop you for a second. Is that what it sounds like I'm saying? Because I didn't say they had to have it. I'm just saying.
No. What I'm saying is this, and I don't want you to stop me because I want to flow right now. What I'm saying is men have standards, but in different ways. We have standards, but in different ways. I don't mean to stop you. I know you're on a flow, but are you suggesting at all that that's a standard for me? Is that what I sound? Hold on a second. Stop for a second. Do I sound like I have a checklist and that I'm saying, okay, they got to have this and they got to have that and they can't be this or that? That's not how I want to come across. No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have a checklist. But what I'm saying is, you know what you like and you know what you don't like. And you're honoring that, but sometimes that can be detrimental.
How?
Right? And so I'm trying to get to it. For the 4 to 6 months of our relationship that was actually blissful, I just let it go. I just let her be herself. I just let her reveal her true self. Instead of me trying to, chime in every time she did something that I didn't like, part of it was probably exhaustion. I was just exhausted for her trying to see the world the way I see it. I'm talking about a girl that would, make dinner plans with me and show up an hour late. This was that I couldn't tolerate. It would drive me nuts. My time is precious. But when I just went to the bar at the restaurant where we chose to meet, and I just said, I'm going to leave it alone tonight. I'm just going to have a drink and get me an appetizer and wait at the bar and let her walk in with the guilt and let her realize what she's done. Because at this point, we're almost 2 years into the relationship. She knows what she did. It's just her culture, living in Latin America. And this is why you got to say, you got to think about more things than just what you want. You got to think about your culture and where you come from. And when I realized that, she comes from a culture that doesn't respect time and doesn't respect being on time, and then she showing up late, but I'm getting on with my shit and I'm not making it a big deal every time, and she's starting to see, man, like, he's really, like, being patient with me. She started to be more respectful of me. Now, the unfortunate part is that was just a little too late. By the time I figured that out, it was a little too late. We had already hurt each other too much. There was not enough to come back from. So I'm not talking about a checklist. What I'm saying is like, if a woman's checklist is gotta be 6+, gotta have a house, gotta have a good job, 6 figures, gotta have a car, gotta take me on vacations. Well, we got our checklist too, which is peace. I got a lot of friends like, man, I'm just looking for a girl that, I want to come home to peace. Though one's physical and one is more metaphysical, it's still a standard in which we want. So I would just challenge you to say, like, if you're ready, just make sure that you're allowing them to reveal themselves. And me actually taking a step back and letting her reveal herself is ultimately what allowed me to understand that I couldn't do it long term, because I wasn't forcing her to be anything. I was letting her reveal herself in a way that she thought about me in her life, that she really respected me and she really understood what I was willing to tolerate and no longer tolerate. Some of those behaviors would have changed. Some of those behaviors that I've shared on these last 2 interviews, and some of the videos and some of the photos I've shared with you in the last 48 hours that we had together.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is it even remotely possible that this same or similar thing could happen to you again?
Absolutely. Will it? It won't. It absolutely won't. But there's a possibility for everything, man. It's a possibility for one of my, one of the biggest regrets I have in my life is I didn't make time to go home to my grandfather's burial service when he passed away when I was 27 years old. But I was in a position in life where I was so busy with going through my breakup at 27, the one that was, 5 years and some change. And also I was starting my business and I was...
So wait, hold on. I'm hold on a second. So yes or no, is possible that this could happen to you again, similar?
Right. But the point I'm making is this the same thing. It's possible for me not to show up to a person who I've cared deeply about and not show up to their burial. It's the same thing. Like, it's possible, but it all depends on what headspace you're in. If I allow myself to be in another headspace where I'm weak and I am not taking care of myself, then I could easily find myself in that. Just like I found myself with not being at my grandfather's burial. I wasn't thinking about anybody else but myself. And that is the problem with being a selfish person.
Well, how do you say you've learned the lesson then? If it's possible again, like, okay, I'm working on getting a motorcycle, when I won't even give that example. My question is, if something bad happens and you go through it and you grow through it and you succeed, and then you say it's possible that it could happen again, where did you learn the lesson or how? Because
I think everything is possible, Travis. I think self accountability is the only thing that humans can control. If you're not checking in with yourself every day, and you're not reminding yourself.
Okay, hold on. Stop for a second. Let me just make a point. There are certain things that happen in my life that will never happen again, and it ain't gonna be no possible. And I'm not talking about you. I just asked a question and I got the answer, and maybe that's just why I'm shocked, because there's some tragedies that happen in my life that'll never happen to me again. I don't care what kind of headspace I'm in. There's certain things that's not gonna happen. So to hear you say after all that you've gone through that it is possible is just kind of shocking to hear. So anyway, go ahead.
I don't think it is, Travis, because I don't think you understand the degree in which I'm talking about. There will never be another. See, I think we operate in different lines of thinking, and here's something that I think of. There will never be another life. Never. Because I am my own divine being and I am my own creation, and the way I put myself together and the journey that I've gone through and the parents that raised me and the village that raised me and everything that makes me me, the idea of ever coming across anything remotely close to me again in the form of it's not going to happen to her. I'm never going to run into another. But will I run into similarities? Will I run into, this happened to me in Argentina. I was in Argentina. My friend had some friends that were from Colombia that now live in Argentina. Very attractive women. Invited us out for dinner, wanted to show us the town. They did a great job. We stopped by 3 places, grabbed a couple of drinks in 2 places, ended up stopping at dinner. Sat down with the girl and took a fancy to me. It was great. I excused myself to the bathroom. And I came back and a bottle of wine and appetizers for the table were already served. I asked my friend, what did they order? He's like, I don't know. They just started ordering things. Come to find out at the end of that dinner, I had to pay a $1,500 tab. Because these girls got in a situation with a guy who they figured out had money and they ran it up. And she was a sweet girl. And we had a wonderful conversation all night, and I was catching the vibes. But when I saw that check, we had plans to see each other actually the last night, the next day before I left, to continue the vibe. I'll never speak to her again.
Yeah, that would have been a vibe to continue, more than a vibe. But anyway, we've got to find a way to stop, because I know you have to go, and so do I. We can pick up again. You want to pick up again, or you want to find a way to close this out? You want to do more or no?
Let's pick up again. But where I want to leave this is that, I saw in that moment. I saw a girl that was highly attractive, highly impressionable, very good lip service. We had wonderful conversations. I left leaving and learning more about her, but to think that on the first time meeting each other, she could slide by a $500 bottle of wine, accompanied by $300 of appetizers when I was in Argentina for 6 days and I was eating out every night with my 5-person team and never got close to $400, appalling. So will I ever get back into another full-blown situation? I'll never be another. But will I see glimpses of how people can take advantage of your likeness and take advantage of their situation? Like said it best, and maybe we leave it on this. These girls don't know the last time they're going to be able to order a $500 bottle of wine, but they chose to do it on the first time of meeting each other. And if that's what's important, if it's more important to do that, we already know the answer. Learn the lesson.
We'll close on just that. How about that? Learn the lesson. That'll be the title of this. Learn the lesson, part 2. So hey, we'll try to schedule again, because I'm sure there's a whole lot more I want to hear and I want to say, and obviously you've got a lot to say. So let's just do it again. You want to do it within the week, within the month, within the next couple of days?
Week, man. Keep it while it's fresh, because like you said, as months go on, I'm putting these in departments and databases of my brain that I don't want to go get access to. When I need to or when I want to, I'm stashing all this shit away. So while it's fresh, we might as well talk about it, because I'm not trying to be reliving these moments every day. So yeah, we'll do it next week.
Okay, I'll be in grandfather mode over the next 10, 12 days, but I'll find time to sit for 30 or 40 minutes. We went
That's
way
great,
over
man.
time. Listen, the next time we've got to be mindful of the time. It's critical because even with our audience, 15 minutes is what they listen for. If we go 45 minutes or an hour, I'm okay with that, but we've got to be mindful of the time and make sure we narrow it down. So we'll do a week from now, within the next give or take, and we'll go from there. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for sharing this time with me and being patient with me and being vulnerable even with yourself. And I look forward to the next one.
No problem, man. Totally. I get it, man. I'm making money right now on 15-second, 30-minute videos online. So I get it. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to close out here, and I'll call you back in a few minutes. Let's try to hang out sometime within the next couple of days. But I'll call you back in a few minutes.
All right.
Okay, man. Appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
Later, buddy.
All right. Well, there you have it. Another one just like the other one. That one went a little longer, and I'm doing my best to listen and even hear. So many times I want to jump in and say something, and I have to be mindful that my little brother is as talkative as I am, and he just wants to get his point out, and I have to be mindful of that. It's definitely a type of therapy for me, but I'm kind of enjoying this experience for more reasons and more ways than anyone will ever know. Considering that, I've been single for a long time, I'm just hearing the tragedy. And I don't want to say it's frightening to the point where I'm going to move in fear, but definitely a high level of caution. And I want to make clear with what I was talking about in terms of red flags and paying attention. I do believe whatever this love language thing is, I do know this about myself. I don't know if it's childhood traumas or what, but I believe I am attentive. I listen and I hear and I follow up. I'm never going to be late for anything. If I tell you I'll be there in 30 minutes, you can rest assured that 29 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm already there. And if I'm going to be late, the last thing I'm going to do is wait till the time passed and then tell you. I just don't understand that. Too many times with that would definitely cause me to slow down a lot because I don't want to have to deal with that. And if you like me enough to where that's something that's important to me, that you can't discipline yourself enough to at least not do that, then that's going to be something that I don't want to get myself involved in. Not only that, anything else that I bring up, there's certain ways that I want to be, remembered, talked to, catered to. And I'm not saying anyone has to bow down to me at all, but it was Tyler Perry dressed in his mud deer getup when he said something out. If you tell somebody what they're doing or saying is hurting you and they keep doing it, child, honey, you need to go on about your business. Go on, move on. And I think we need to be mindful of that. When people speak, they're not just talking to hear themselves talk. They're saying things, and it doesn't have to be a checklist. Well, you got to be this, you got to be that. I'm not saying anything like that. There's just certain things that are important to me. And just like my buddy, there were things that were important to him, and I know he brought it to the attention of his significant other at the time. But that desire and in him for companionship caused him to just overlook it. Just like he saw that $1,500 bill and said no more. Maybe if he had seen some of those other $1,500 bills, maybe he would have saved himself from that. But sometimes we do have to go through some of those times before we actually learn. But I will say this about myself. Once I do get out of, my mother used to say this, and this is what I'm going to close on. If the Lord delivers you out of the mouth of an alligator, don't go back. And the idea that he said it was even possible, and maybe I misunderstood that. There's just certain things I'm just not going to go back to. And the idea that someone can not be considerate of what's important to me, I don't even want to get into that, let alone going back to that. With that being said, thanks again for your time. This was a long one, and I hope someone was able to benefit from it. Find someone you need to say I love you to. Don't just say it. Show it. Mean it. Let it be true. Even if they don't see it, you know your heart. You know your intentions. When you do your best, don't worry about how it comes back. Just know that you've done your best and rest well at night. Take care. Ciao.